Picture this. A kid is walking to class, books under his arm, head down, minding his own business. And out of nowhere, someone shoves him into the lockers. His stuff scatters across the floor. People are laughing, and then the bully steps in close and slaps him, open-handed, across the face, just to prove he can. The kid does nothing. He picks up his books, he walks away, because somewhere along the line, someone told him that's what a good Christian does. So let me ask you something. Growing up, were you ever told to turn the other cheek? To just let it go? To be the bigger person and walk away? Because here's the thing. That is not what Jesus meant. In fact, it's almost the opposite. And the real meaning of turn the other cheek has been so buried by time and so badly mistranslated by our modern ears that we've turned one of the boldest things Jesus ever said into an excuse for cowardice. Let's fix that today. I'm coming at this from the Catholic tradition, the church that has spent 2,000 years thinking carefully about what Jesus actually said and what he actually meant. Not vibes, not a bumper sticker, the real thing. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand 3 things. What everybody thinks turn the other cheek means, what it actually meant to the people Jesus was talking to, and most importantly, how you're supposed to use it in a moment like the one we just watched. Let's start with what most of us were taught. For most Christians today, turn the other cheek means swallow it, absorb the insult, don't react, be a doormat and call it holiness. Somebody wrongs you? Brush it off. Somebody humiliates you? Be the bigger person. Somebody hurts someone you love? Well, we're supposed to forgive, right? And I want to be honest with you. I grew up Catholic, and this idea was baked into me. This exact reflex. Anytime something felt unfair, anytime I got stepped on, there was this little voice. Let it go. Don't make a scene. Turn the other cheek. I spent years confusing weakness with virtue. I let things slide that I absolutely should have stood up to, and I told myself I was being Christ-like. But here's the problem. If turn the other cheek just means let evil happen to you, then Jesus was telling us to enable bullies. He was telling the abused to stay quiet. He was telling the oppressed to accept their oppression. And anyone who has actually read the Gospels knows that it is nothing like the man who flipped tables in the temple and called the powerful of his day a brood of vipers to their faces. So either Jesus contradicted himself, or we've been reading this verse wrong for a very long time. Okay, let's go to the actual text. Matthew chapter 5, the Sermon on the Mount, and watch the details, because the details are everything. Jesus says, if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Now stop. He didn't just say the cheek. He said the right cheek. And that one word changes the whole picture. Think about it physically. I'm standing in front of you. If I'm going to hit your right cheek, and remember, in the ancient world, you basically never use your left hand. It was considered unclean. The only way I can strike your right cheek with my right hand is with the back of my hand, a backhand. And in Jesus' world, a backhand was not how you fought someone. It was how you insulted someone beneath you. A master backhanded a slave. A Roman backhanded a Jew. A father backhanded a child. It was a status move. It said, you are lower than me, and I am putting you in your place. It wasn't meant to injure you. It was meant to humiliate you. So now, with that fresh sting on your face, Jesus says, turn the other cheek. Turn your left cheek toward him. And think about what that does to the aggressor. Suddenly, he can't backhand you anymore. The geometry doesn't work. To hit your left cheek, he has to come at you with an open palm or a closed fist. But here's the thing. In that culture, you only struck an equal with a fist. That was a fight between two men who stood on the same level. Do you see what just happened? By turning the other cheek, you didn't run. You didn't cower. You looked your oppressor dead in the eye and said, without a word, "Try again. But this time, you're going to have to treat me as your equal." You just stripped away his power to humiliate you. You forced him to either back down or admit that you're a human being who stands on the same ground he does. Turning the other cheek doesn't bring you down to nothing. It drags him down to your level. The level of two people made in the image of God. That's not weakness. That is one of the most defiant, dignified things a person can do. It's non-violent, but it is anything but passive. And if you still don't believe me, that turning the other cheek was never about silently accepting abuse, then look at what Jesus did when it happened to him. In the Gospel of John, chapter 18, Jesus is on trial, and one of the guards steps up and strikes him across the face. Now, this is the perfect chance for Jesus to do the brush it off and stay quiet thing we were all taught, right? This is his moment to be the doormat. He doesn't. He looks at the man and says, "If I have said something wrong, prove it. Testify to what's wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why do you strike me?" Jesus, struck on the cheek, does not stay silent. He names the injustice. He challenges the man to justify himself. He calmly, without a shred of violence, demands to be treated with the dignity he is owed. That is what turning the other cheek actually looks like when the Son of God does it. Not silence, not surrender. Truth spoken to a face that just hit you. So let's bring in the Catholic teaching, because this is where it all clicks into place. The church draws a hard line between two things that people constantly mix up: revenge and just defense. Revenge, retaliation, getting even, hurting someone just because they hurt you. That's out. That's forbidden. That's the eye for an eye mentality Jesus is directly correcting in this very passage. Defending your dignity and defending other people, that's not just allowed. The Catechism actually calls it a duty. The Church teaches that legitimate defense, protecting yourself, and especially protecting the vulnerable, can be a genuine responsibility, not a sin. Loving your neighbor sometimes means standing between your neighbor and the person hurting them. Because here's the foundation under all of it. Every human being is made in the image of God. You, the kid at the lockers, and yes, even the bully. Your dignity is not yours to throw in the trash to keep the peace. And letting someone treat you like you're worthless isn't humility. Sometimes it's just fear wearing humility's clothes. As St. Paul put it, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Notice he says overcome it, not ignore it, not let it win. Overcome it with something stronger than violence. So let's get back to that kid at the lockers. What does turning the other cheek actually look like for him? It does not mean he throws a punch for revenge. We're not doing that. But it also does not mean he picks up his books and slinks away ashamed, letting his bully win and calling it holiness. Turning the other cheek means he stands up, he plants his feet, he looks the bully in the eye. No flinching, no fear. And he refuses to be humiliated. His whole posture says, that's not going to work on me. I'm not less than you. He might say it out loud. He names what's happening. Why are you doing this? The same question Jesus asked the guard. And then, this is the Catholic part people always skip. He doesn't shrink and he doesn't swing. He does the third thing, the thing Jesus did. Remember what made turning the other cheek so brilliant? It wasn't passive and it wasn't violent. It was a trap. It handed the aggressor a choice he didn't want to make. Treat you as an equal, or back down. And it stripped him of the one thing he came for, the power to humiliate you on his own terms. And you can do the exact same thing today. Not with your cheek, with your composure and your words. Here's how the aggressor's game actually works. Whether it's a bully, a boss who belittles you in meetings, or someone in your life who's made cruelty a habit. They're running the script, and that script needs you to play one of the two roles. Either you crumble, you get flustered, you go quiet, you tear up, and that feeds them. Or you blow up, you yell, you swing, and now they get you to play the victim. and call you the crazy one. Both of those hand them the win. So you refuse both roles. You do what Jesus did in his trial. When that guard struck him, he didn't cower and he didn't hit back. He looked the man dead in the eye and asked him, "If I said something wrong, prove it. But if I didn't, why did you just hit me?" He made the aggressor answer for himself. He dragged the cruelty out into the open and forced the whole room to look at it. That is your move. Stay calm, and I mean unnervingly calm, because calm is the one thing they don't expect and can't stand. Stand at your full height, hold eye contact. Don't fill the silence with nervous words, and then name it, out loud, plainly. You just talked over me and mocked me in front of everyone. Was that on purpose? Or do you speak to everyone like this? Or is it just me? Or the simplest one of all, stop. That's not okay. And I think you know it. Note that each phrase drastically varies from person to person, and scenario from scenario. For me, I could only legitimately say one of those three past responses and feel confident in bringing the aggressor to my equal. This is the tough part of acting Christ-like. We will never have a clear response that is exactly how Christ would respond. But the more we try, the better and closer we get. The important thing is to bring the aggressor to your equal. And if possible, do it in a unique way, like turning the other cheek in Jesus' time. Watch what that does. You didn't beg, so they can't feel powerful. You didn't explode, so they can't call you unhinged. You calmly held up a mirror, and now they are the ones standing there having to explain themselves in front of everyone. You just did with words what Jesus did with the cheek. You forced them to either treat you as an equal and account for their behavior, or back down. You leveled the ground. And here's the Catholic heart of it. Naming someone's sin to their face is not cruelty. It is a work of mercy. Admonish the sinner is written right into our tradition. You're not trying to destroy this person. You are refusing to let them keep being cruel comfortably, because part of actually loving them is refusing to be a silent accomplice to who they are becoming. Now, if they escalate, if it turns physical, hear this clearly. You are allowed to defend yourself. Turning the other cheek was never a command to stand there and be beaten. The Catechism calls legitimate defense not just a right, but at times a duty. Protecting yourself and getting yourself out is not a sin, and it is not a failure of faith. But most of the time, you will not need to, because the calm, the eye contact, and the question they can't wriggle out of, that is the fist that makes them your equal. That is turning the other cheek, translated straight into your life. That's the whole thing, non-violent, but never, ever passive, merciful, but never a doormat. So the next time somebody tells you that being a Christian means silently taking whatever the world throws at you, that turning the other cheek means letting yourself get walked on, you'll know better. Jesus wasn't telling you to disappear. He was handing you a way to stand tall in front of anyone who tries to make you small, without ever becoming the thing that you're standing against. Turn the other cheek. Not because you're weak, because you know exactly who you are, and whose image you're made in. If this reframes something for you, let me know in the comments. What's a verse you were taught to read one way, that you later found out meant something completely different? And if you want more videos recovering the parts of faith we've lost to time, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.